Hello students, very warm welcome for this session on organization behavior. So in this video, we will be talking about what is perception, what is personality, attitudes, learning, what is motivation. So some of these keywords, which will touch base in this particular video. So the first question, which comes to the mind is, what is perception? So the way you perceive the things and the other person perceive the things are different. It is just like a unique code which you have, and every person, as we say, has a different personality, and the way in which the person will perceive the things being at the same place at the same time is different. For example, there is a movie which is going on in the theater. So one may perceive the action scene which is there on the movie or any other event which has happened in a positive way. The other person may perceive this particular event or episode in a different manner. And so why does that happen? So the question here is, what is perception and how does the perception gets developed for an individual? So perception is an act of seeing what is there to be seen. But what is seen is influenced by the individual, object and the situation. So, and why this perception is important? So let us have a look at that. What is the need in an organization behavior? Why do we look at this particular topic of studying the perceptions? Why it is important? So the here key is that at times we do not see the reality. Means what is actually happening, our eyes when they see. There is a term which is called as seeing is believing. Where at times, sometimes what you see and you believe that may or may not be true. So for example, there is a movie recording, like a scene being acted and a play going on, and the user, there's a person which crosses through that particular place, and so that person, just an action scene, maybe some scene is going on. To that person, this is happening in reality. But what is the actual reality? The reality is that this particular film sequence is being shot for that particular film. So it is not true every time that what we see is what we need to believe. It may not be true every time. So we interpret the situation basis how our personality has been developed over the years. So what we interpret, how do we anticipate, how do we see, what is our analysis, interpretations are different. So people behavior is based on their perception of what the reality is and not on the reality itself. So there's a process which guides this particular human behavior. We can also define perception as the process of receiving the information, processing the information, and making the sense of the world around us. So sensation is the first step in the perceptual process. So as they say, we have 5 senses: hearing, smell, touch, sight. So all these things are the senses, and through the senses, how we perceive the things, how do we analyze the things, and then what is the result that our mind says is called as the perception. So perception, the study of perception is concerned with identifying the process through which we interpret and organize our sensory information to produce meaningful relationships. We can also say that perception is a subjective process, and therefore different people may perceive things in a different manner. The same environment may be perceived differently by different people. So let us look at an example. There is a training program organized by the company for their employees, which is a sales training. And the sales trainer has come and started taking the session. 1 hour has passed. And then after that, let us say you ask a lot of 30 people, and how do you perceive the trainer? What is your perception about the trainer? You will find that people will have different, answers to it. Somebody will say, oh, he's an excellent man, training is being done in an excellent manner. Somebody would say, oh, I already know this, I think what's new in it? Somebody will say, oh, it is just okay, it is not that much good, like that. And that is the reason why the feedback, is asked for in these kind of sessions, because even the trainer would like to know that when he or she is taking the session, so how this session is being perceived by the people. There is one statement which says customer perception is your reality, and it is so very true. How the customer perceives you. You may be the best key account manager or a best customer relationship manager in your own eyes. But the thing is, let us say you are handling say 10 clients, and out of that 6 out of 10 clients, they do not perceive you as an excellent or a good relationship manager. Then your perception about this thought about yourself that I am an excellent manager may not be true. So the reality, how do you see the reality, is totally different by how you are actually perceiving it. So when we get the feedback from the customers and like that, so that is the real reality, because what they perceive about you as an account manager, as a key account manager, or a customer relationship manager, is what is the reality is, because you are serving the clients. And if the clients are happy, then yes, you're doing well. If the clients are not happy with you being appointed with the role and the responsibility of a key account manager, then there is an issue. So that is a very important topic, point which we need to understand. So perception is very important, in understanding the human behavior. It helps in predicting the behavior under the changed circumstances. So, with the help of perception, the needs of the people, various people can be determined, because perception is influenced, by their needs. As many of you must have by now read about the Maslow hierarchy of needs. So people perception is influenced, by their needs. So somebody who's at the bottom of the pyramid, or somebody, let us say, is like poor, and you're talking to him about the training and development, so does not make sense to him, because for that person the priority as of now is food and shelter. So the thing is, people perception is influenced by what their needs are. Accordingly, they will be having the different perceptions. Now, when we look at a managerial setup, that how does a manager perceive their teams? So it is a team is a collection of individuals which are working in the organization for a common goal. So how does the manager perceive his or her team versus how does the team perceive his or their manager? That can be totally different, because manager is going to perceive the team as a total one entity, and for the team member it is one boss, one manager which is there. Also, one must have seen that when appraisals they happen, so many of the organizations, they follow so-called the bell curve for the the performance appraisals and rating. So bell curve is basically a kind of a forced distribution, which means you say, okay, the top 10% will get graded as A, they'll get a good increment, an excellent increment. The remaining, the next 30% or 40% will be the above average, they'll get some X kind of increment. And then around, you can say 50% of that will be falling at the average performance category. You can call it as, say, C. And the last 10% will be the category D, which is the very low performance, which you have categorizing people as. So the thing is, the subordinates appraisal is very much influenced by the behavior of the manager, perceptions. So how does a manager perceive you as an employee is very important, and then basis that there will be bias. So if the manager perceives you as a hard-working individual, a committed individual, and you are showing by your achieving the targets for the organization, then you will get a higher rating, you will get a better increment, you might be considered for a promotion as well. So these are the things which through the perception can be derived out. Now let us try to understand what are the factors that influence the perception. So the very important point, the first point is the perceiver's characteristics. As an individual, what has been your learning? What have been your experience of life? What your interests are? What are your values? What are your attitude? What is your personality? So this is called as perceiver's characteristics. So this will define, this is one of the kind of an input parameter or a factor which will influence the perception, your perception. So first is perceiver characteristics. Number two is target being perceived. So whatever things you are perceiving, whether it is an object, a person, a place, or a thing. So depending on the nature, the size, the color, the contrast, the movement, novelty, familiarity, All these are called as the target's characteristics or the target being perceived. So this is also an important factor that would influence the perception. And the next thing is the situation. So what kind of a social context you are in, what kind of a situation you are in, what kind of physical situation it is. Is it that you are there in a park? Is it there that you are in a jungle? Is it there that you are sitting in a boardroom of the office? So the situation which you are in will definitely, impact how your perception is made. Social setting, what kind of number of people, an event being organized, people being there, the organizational setting and all that. So how does this process actually happens of perception? So you receive the stimuli through the 5 senses which are there. Then you select the stimuli which is there. Then then you have this processing of that stimuli, and the processing takes place. And basis all these parameters like the perceiver characteristics, target being perceived, and the situation in which the perception is made, finally you will be coming out with a particular perception, or we can say after all the analysis and the interpretation of the data, then you will be perceiving that particular thing. There's a kind of a test which is being organized for many candidates when they are hired or want to be hired as a part of the process of hiring. They are shown various images, and everybody may have a different way of interpreting the images. And a lot of the so-called the image-based interpretation is used for the the selection boards by the army, or you can say the armed forces as well, because you are able to get to know the personality of what's hidden. They get uncovered by usage of this particular thing. So that is there in this particular video. We will continue with more sessions and the topic in the next one. So this is what we have discussed today. See you again soon. Thank you. Bye.